Was Jesus a vegetarian? Jesus of Nazareth, as we read in the New Testament, was not a vegetarian. The Bible records Jesus eating fish, which you can read in Luke 24, verse 42 through 43, which says, "They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate before them." That's from the ESV version. And Jesus ate lamb, Luke 22, verse 8 through 15. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it." They said to him, "Where will you have us prepare it?" He said to them, "Behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house that he enters, and tell the master of the house, 'The teacher says to you, where is the guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he will show you a large upper room furnished. Prepare it there." And they went and found it, just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. So Jesus miraculously fed the crowds fish and bread, which would have been a strange thing for him to do if he was a vegetarian. You can read about that in Matthew chapter 14, verse 17 through 21. In a vision to the Apostle Peter, Jesus declared all foods to be clean, including animals. And you can read about that in Acts 10 through 15. After the flood in Noah's time, God gave humanity permission to eat meat. Genesis 9, 2 through 3. God has never not given us this permission. So, in other words, he's kept this covenant between us. So, Jesus himself, has declared all foods to be clean. And of course, now you need to be careful that there's folks out there or professing Christians who try to tell you that you can't eat a particular food or whatever, and they'll try to use the Old Testament to argue that. But the easiest way to reply to them would be to read Acts chapter 10, verse 10 through 15. Now, with all this being said, there isn't anything wrong with a Christian being a vegetarian. The Bible does not command us to eat meat. There's nothing wrong with abstaining from eating meat. But what the Bible does say is that we should not force our convictions about this issue on other people or judge them by what they eat or do not eat. And I want to read Romans 14, 2 through 3, which specifically talks about this issue. It says, "One man's faith allows him to eat everything, but another man, whose faith is weak, eats only vegetables. The man who eats everything must not look down on him who does not, and the man who does not eat everything must not condemn the man who does, for God has accepted him." Again, God gave humanity permission to eat meat after the flood, which you can read in Genesis 9:3. In the Old Testament law, the nation of Israel was commanded not to eat certain foods, Leviticus 11, 1 through 47, but there was never a command against eating meat. Jesus declared all foods, including all kinds of meat, to be clean. Mark 7:19, which says, "Since it enters not his heart but his stomach and is expelled," he declares all foods to be clean. As with anything, each Christian should pray for guidance as to what God would have him or her eat. Whatever we decide to eat is acceptable to God as long as we thank him for providing it. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, which says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." And that's something that I've been trying to do more, is thank God, for my food, for the things that I have. We should pray and thank God before we eat our food, because it is acceptable, whatever we eat, if we give thanks. And 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God." So clearly from the scriptures, we see that there isn't forbidden foods that we shouldn't eat. But, we should use wisdom, discernment, and we should educate ourselves about good, healthy food choices. And, now we know that today is a lot different than, the foods and things that people were eating in biblical times. Because the animals now mostly come from factory farms today. They're not fed natural diets. They have hormones and all these antibiotics and all these different things in them, toxins, which aren't good to be consuming. So we really need to go back to the original way, if we really want to truly, eat healthy foods, then we should find those animals that are eating natural grasses and things, which would be the best for us. And it's not to say that somebody is sinning by eating at McDonald's, of course not. And any professing Christian that would say something like that clearly does not know much about this issue from the New Testament. So it's pretty clear, that we aren't to pass judgment on what other people eat. And that comforts me. That gives me wisdom. It allows me to love other people unconditionally. And I see a lot of people on YouTube that are judging other people for what they eat. And this can go on both sides, whether you're a raw food guy or, you're a meat eater or a plant eater. There's a lot of fighting going on in between, and we're called as Christians not to participate in that fighting. We aren't to judge each other for what we eat or to love each other. And that is my message for this video. Love each other. Love your neighbor as yourself.